It's Tuesday, and we're glad to have you back. And it's also the 16th. That puts us over the halfway mark, officially now on the downhill side of August. It's just around the corner, that being the end of summer and the beginning of fall. Thank you so much for being here this evening. Weather-wise, we've got a really big, really slow-moving cold front that's going to combine with a lot of warm, humid air we've had in place for days now, and that's going to ramp up those chances for repeated showers, one after another. And as far as total rainfall amounts, those will start to add up, especially tomorrow. It looks to be a pretty wet one across the board. Temperatures are going to back down just a bit thereafter, but the chances of showers will continue to some degree thereafter as well. Much more in your forecast as we anticipate some rainfall tomorrow that could certainly add up. On tonight's program, the Painesville City Council is struggling with several issues in their most recent meeting. One, talking about the ordinance and an amendment that was filed years later in regards to allowing mobile homes in the city limits of Painesville, as well as how they're going to pay for millions of dollars in improvements to the sewer system that the state is saying they better do as soon as possible, or they're going to face significant fines, tens of thousands of dollars a day. Those were a couple of discussions that we pulled out of their most recent session. And we've got some other news. An auto accident today didn't result in any serious injuries, but one arrest in McGoffin County, a drug-related chase and pursuit in neighboring Johnson County, a golden alert on behalf of a neighbor that we want to pass along, and some new announcements and news in our community calendar and elsewhere throughout the program. First, however, from the Department of Justice, specifically the United States Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Kentucky, they have detailed today a part of a comprehensive approach to combating the opioid epidemic facing the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Specifically, in early 2015, the U.S. Attorney's Office established an overdose prosecution initiative, which has become an important tool, they say, in the battle against illegal drug trafficking in Kentucky. Under federal law, defendants convicted of drug trafficking involving a Schedule I or Schedule II drug that results in the death or serious bodily injury of another, an overdose, are subject to a mandatory minimum sentence, minimum of 20 years in jail or prison if they have a qualifying prior conviction, a mandatory term of life imprisonment as well. This significant penalty has two practical effects, they say, on many drug dealers. It gives them an enormous incentive to assist law enforcement in their investigation and prosecution of others, and it represents a potentially enormous deterrent to dealing drugs themselves. And relying on this impactful sentencing provision, the United States Attorney's Office, in partnership with the DEA, has developed a considered plan to increase the use of this penalty provision, to increase the cooperation between federal and state law enforcement and community partners, to train state and local partners on building effective cases for prosecution, and to enhance the law enforcement response to this growing epidemic. On Monday, just yesterday afternoon, 3 important convictions were obtained in local overdose cases, evidencing the effectiveness of this valuable law enforcement tool. Each of the following cases, which I'll mention in brief, do highlight an important aspect of the prosecution initiative and the criminal and critical nature of the opioid epidemic. First, there was a case out of Woodford County. The initiative resulted in the conviction of both Louise Aguilera Gerardo and Gil Dwayne Garrett. These men admitted that in July of last year they distributed a counterfeit pain pill to a woman in Woodford County who consumed the pill and then died of an overdose. The pill was made to look like oxycodone, but instead contained fentanyl, which is a super powerful opioid, as much as 100 more times potent than morphine. The investigation established that Aguilera Gerardo was a major distributor of these deadly counterfeit pills in central Kentucky. That case, one of the first to arise from the training provided under the initiative, represents the first time that the office has prosecuted not only the street-level dealer, but also his up-the-chain source of supply for the same overdose. Both men now face more than 20 years in federal prison. Next, the initiative has now produced the conviction of several members of an organization responsible for trafficking in large amounts of heroin and fentanyl in Madison County. 2 of those defendants, Navarius Westbury and Benjamin Frederick Charles Robinson, both from Michigan, were convicted of distributing drugs that resulted in an overdose. In Westbury's case, a fatal one. Collectively, this organization was responsible for distributing up to 1,000 grams of heroin and 50 grams of fentanyl in Madison County alone. The investigation revealed that Westbury and Robinson relocated to Kentucky for the sole purpose of establishing a heroin distribution network. both also face at least 20 years in prison. And finally, in a case from Lexington in Fayette County, the initiative has produced the conviction of Fred Redmond, who admitted that he distributed fentanyl to a Lexington woman who was several months pregnant at the time, and that she died as a result of taking the drug. The case places the tragic scope of the epidemic in clear focus and underscores, they say, the critical need to continue efforts to educate the public and enhance law enforcement efforts to battle this growing problem. Since its inception, they say the overdose prosecution initiative has been the direct source of several important prosecutions and has led to convictions against numerous drug traffickers who collectively are responsible for enormous quantities of very dangerous drugs and many overdose deaths in our community. These are 3 cases with several other individuals altogether involved, but they also promise they have well more than a dozen other cases in the works at this very time. On a related note, you can't go without noticing an epidemic of heroin overdoses in neighboring West Virginia, where authorities and first responders there have responded to more than 2 dozen in less than a 24-hour period after a bad batch of heroin, or of heroin that was something else, maybe in this case as it was fentanyl, still yet to be determined. It is just a scary situation, especially for our young people who may be unaware of what they are taking. We got some emergency calls since I saw you last. Right now, let me pass along a golden alert that is still in effect for a neighbor in Breathitt County, issued today for the following gentleman who was last seen heading north in his white Ford Ranger, which also, unlike the picture, I think, has a missing front bumper. At last report, family and law enforcement personnel and anyone else who had an earshot of this alert were still looking for Roosevelt Roberts. He was last seen near Haddocks, Kentucky. He's mentally impaired. He was heading north in his late model white Ford Ranger, similar to the one seen here. This is just a stock photograph that we have. The license plate on the truck, 742HCC. Roberts at the time was wearing a checkered T-shirt, blue work pants, and a ball cap, similar to what he's seen here, but this was not an actual photograph of what he was wearing today. But he was last seen in the area, once again, of Haddocks in Breathitt County. If you have seen the truck, and it might be a little farther out than the Breathitt County area, maybe in the viewing area where you're watching from, call the Kentucky State Police at 433-7711. You can also call the Jackson Police Department at 666-2424. This golden alert was issued today for Roosevelt Roberts, last seen yesterday, actually, near Haddocks in his white Ford Ranger. And remember, the truck is missing the front bumper from the vehicle. For high-speed internet starting at 15 meg for all of your gaming, movie, home, and business solutions, or to watch TV, including your favorite local channels without a contract, with hundreds of channels and digital and HD quality, and to stay connected 24/7 with friends and family, a direct line to 911, or to give your business the link it needs, choose telephone service you know is always there. Just click on their link on this site to find out how affordable the latest technology in communications can be. Foothills Communications. Local emergency personnel and the Magauffa County Sheriff's Department responded to a 2-vehicle accident on West 460 earlier today. No serious or life-threatening injuries that I'm aware of. However, Magauffa County Sheriff's Deputy Neil Adams did make an arrest for DUI with aggravating circumstances as a result of his investigation. The 2-car collision happened earlier this afternoon at the mouth of Johnson Fork on 460. A small passenger car was traveling toward Salyersville when another vehicle was making a left turn onto Johnson Fork. The vehicle seen here, a black passenger car, which actually was turned around by the operator after the collision. A minor collision, actually, very little damage, and all occupants out of the vehicles upon arrival of emergency personnel and authorities. However, Magauffa County Sheriff's Deputy Neil Adams, in his police citation, indicated that he suspected one of the drivers to be under the influence, that of the small black passenger car, and that she was given a field sobriety test, and she also, according to his citation, admitted to taking prescription medication that was prescribed to her prior to the accident. She was taken first to the Paul B. Hall Medical Center for blood testing and then lodged in the Big Sandy Regional Detention Center on a count of DUI with aggravated circumstances, first offense, and for some minor traffic infractions. She was identified as a Hope Williams. On a somewhat related note, Officer Adams will be with us later in the week, maybe tomorrow, talking about he and the Magoffin County Sheriff's Department being on the receiving end of a very nice gesture from a lovely little lady. We'll talk more about that later. Going on over to Johnson County headlines, a press release from the Johnson County Sheriff's Department says this Sunday, almost at 6 o'clock, Johnson County Sheriff's Deputy Brad Caldwell was patrolling in the Boones Camp area when he observed the operator of this motorcycle seen lying in the road run a stop sign at the end of Kentucky Route 1596. The sheriff's deputy tried to pull over the operator of the motorcycle. Instead, he continued to flee and increased to a high rate of speed. Caldwell pursued the motorcycle as it turned onto Pigeon Roost Road. The operator just barely avoided hitting two vehicles head-on, according to the police press release. The pursuit continued on to Kentucky 40 East, headed towards the Martin County area, when the motorcycle apparently had engine trouble before the Hammond Road turnoff, and the operator was taken into custody with apparently no further incident after the chase ended as a result of some sort of mechanical issue. The operator was identified as 26-year-old Adam Rohr of Boones Camp. He was also found to be in possession of a small red container inside 9 bags of a white powdery substance, which appeared to be methamphetamine. Also, he was said to be in possession of several items of drug paraphernalia, a pair of brass knuckles, and it was also determined that Rohr was under the influence of drugs during the entire incident. He was taken into custody and charged with possession of a controlled substance, several traffic infractions as well, several counts of possession of a controlled substance as well, also DUI with aggravating circumstances, possession of paraphernalia. The list of charges also went on to include carrying concealed weapons, speeding 26 miles per hour over the speed limit, as well as maybe a dozen other traffic offenses. He was lodged in the Big Sandy Jail as a result. More headlines in a few moments. Right now, announcements per tonight's Magoffin Farm Bureau community calendar. Just a couple of quick reminders. The Magoffin County Safe Coalition has a regular monthly meeting set for tomorrow, 1 o'clock, in the Magoffin County Health Department's conference room. And the graduating Magoffin County High School class of 1986 is looking at their 30th reunion. It's not coming up until September the 3rd. That's not too far away either. It will be 7 o'clock that evening at the Sayersville Renaissance Center. If you have any questions about the event, call 859-314-3453. I also have just in the complete list of events, and there are a lot of them, a big schedule for the upcoming Heritage Day Festival here in Magoffin County. I'll get that to you on tomorrow's program. Right now, one quick reminder that registration for the baby and children's pageants sign-ups will start 1 week from this Friday. Friday, Saturday, the 26th, 27th, and the following Monday, all from the Historical Society. And if you've got announcements just like you heard, or birthdays or anniversaries, they're all free. Tell me, I'll tell everyone else, and get them to us any way here in front of you like, and that includes dropping them off by the Your News Today studio. And remember, our show is always on our website at yournewstoday.com. Turning to funeral service announcements for this evening, Billy Lovely, 52 of Sagersville, passed away on Friday. The son of the late Rayon and Minerva Howard Lovely, he survived by brothers Ronald, Donald, Kenner, and Stanley Lovely, and also a sister, Vonda. Visitation is this evening, all day tomorrow, and then prior to Thursday's services. They're set for 1 o'clock, and visitation and services are all going to be from the Magoffin County Funeral Home Chapel. Burial will follow at the Lovely Cemetery at Craft Creek. Pansy Jean Kraft Howard, 61 of Rock House Road, passed away on Sunday, the daughter of the late Grover and Maxine Kraft. She survived by her daughter, Jennifer Rose Howard Collett. Visitation is going to start after 5 on Thursday and then prior to Friday's services that will begin at 11 o'clock that morning. Both visitation and services from the Sagersville Funeral Home. Burial will follow at the Hoskins Cemetery, located on Lakeville Road in Magoffin County. And lastly, this evening, we've just learned of the passing of Sylvia Lyon, 76, of Coon Creek, who passed away on yesterday. Arrangements have just been made. I do not have them in their entirety, but I can tell you that visitation will begin for the family tomorrow at 1, for friends at 2, and funeral services have been set for Thursday at 4 o'clock in Miss Sylvia's honor. From our friends at the Hope Family Medical Center, they have put together a big evening this Friday, just in a couple of days. I'll forward this on over to the calendar and remind you, but let me mention it to you now, that they have an open house set for this Friday evening with their pediatrics team. Meet Doctors Mills and Russell and everyone with the staff at 5:30 this Friday for 2 hours. They're going to have some really cool door prizes. I'll just leave it at that. They're also going to have a lot of games and a lot of prizes with those. They're going to have a back-to-school starter kit for the first 50 kids. That's right. And it's all this Friday starting at 5:30. It lasts for 2 hours at Hope Family Medical Center. Stop by and see our friends, kids and moms and dads and caregivers as well, as you will have a good time and find out more about the so many services they have. You've been seeing them featured here with advertising and commercials that I've been doing for them for months, and we still got more new ones ahead. It's a complete one-stop shop for your entire health care, to say the very, very least. More on them on tomorrow's program, and, well, pretty much every day to some degree. The Paintsville City Council met recently in their regular session meeting, and after payment of the bills, approval of the minutes from the meeting prior, Mayor Porter made a special announcement.
I've got one announcement. This week we received a very nice certificate, and Fran Gerald brought it down on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, recognizing Paintsville as the 19th safest city in the state of Kentucky. And the only one in this area, I think, that received that designation. So we were proud of that, and thank you, Bill Holbrook and Mike Rowe and your men for the good job that you do.
Following that announcement, the mayor moved to appoint Philip Goggins to replace Councilman Mike Smith, who has resigned from the Paintsville City Council. That appointment was met with unanimous support by the remaining members of the Paintsville City Council. Next was setting the 2017 motor vehicle and watercraft rate, which was left at 11.480 cents per $100 of evaluation, as it has stood for a number of years. Next was discussion of a land usage ordinance, referring to the ordinance restricting mobile homes moved into the city of Paintsville.
We've had some upset because there has been a double-wide mobile home placed in the city of Paintsville, first one in a number of years, and we have an ordinance that permits that was passed in 2005, and just wanted to get your all's feeling as to whether we needed to go back and repeal that ordinance, or whether we want to shore it up by putting some more provisions on it. Any thoughts or comments on that?
I say we repealed it, Bob, myself. I mean, I remember when we did that, you knew what the reason was because of that double wide out there, amount to, where the utilities build, the utilities offices now, so. And we really should have gone back and addressed that after that, but I guess we didn't do it that stage.
Hey, the easy thing to do, or the simple thing to be, we just give them a variance for that.
Yeah.
For that.
But we didn't do it, so, but I mean, I make a motion we repeal it myself, because I've heard a lot of discontentment about it. And
I second.
I think our property values are already low enough in town right now to where we don't need to lower them anymore.
The end result, after more discussion, was unanimous approval of a motion made to repeal an amendment that was attached in 2005 to the city ordinance. That amendment allowed, quote, qualified manufactured mobile homes, as referred to by the state's guidelines, to be allowed to be placed inside the Paintsville city limits. With repealing that amendment, they will go back to the original ordinance, which makes it unlawful to move in any type of mobile home into the Paintsville city limits whatsoever. The mayor announced that after several years, they had finally let out for bid the sidewalk project, which will cover over 3,000 feet of sidewalks being redone in the Paintsville city limits. After a long-anticipated grant has finally come through and all of the red tape has cleared, Ground Solutions had the lowest bid at $114,231. After some more paperwork to be done, they will begin work hopefully in a 4-week period or soon thereafter. And next, the city council and mayor continue to struggle with the situation in regards to the sewer system. mandating a major overhaul to the sewer system to get it into compliance and threatening a $25,000 a day fine if they don't do so. They have been struggling with how to pay for a $4.9 million loan that will go along with a $2.1 million grant to pay for all of those modifications to be made to the sewer system. First, talking about a blanket $8 increase to all sewer customers, with the most recent motion being tabled, that proposed by Councilman Sean Thompson, in which he proposed a $4 increase to the majority of the customers with another percentage of an increase to the largest of sewer users. That motion tabled pending a meeting to be held recently with the Division of Water and other representatives of the state government.
What did they say to you all when you went there the 27th? How much time they put it off for 4 years? Can't we get another 3 or 4?
They won't answer that question. They won't answer that question.
What was your outcome with the Division of Water at the hazard meeting?
That meeting was a follow-up to a meeting 4 years ago. And done a lot with the agreed order and corrective action plan at that time. And I was in a pretty good position because they asked questions regarding that agreed order. The previous management had put all these things together. I was able to handle this packet, this packet, this packet. Until we got to the question about the I&I project, she says, and I guess you've got that done. No. And I got one of those open glasses looks at that point. But this was the wet water division. Their job is to help us through these things. It wasn't the enforcement people, and we really don't want to be there. When they come, it's all bad news.
It's all bad news to us. We're sitting here asking was right.
I'm gonna throw the motion out there one more time, just to let it die for a second, once again. But I just make the motion that we go ahead and authorize Pansy Utilities to charge a flat $4, the 15% above the 2,000 gallons and 7.5% above 100,000 gallons. I mean, you know, you're faced with some absolute facts. One is that they have to do it. I mean, at some point we're gonna have to do it. Kicking the can on down the road, it's like we're waiting for somebody to start finding us $1,000 a day to make a decision, you know, and I don't know if that's good math. And the other fact is none of us want to do it, but I'm not running for re-election, so I'm gonna make the motion.
And after some further discussion, Councilman Thompson's motion again died for the lack of a second and was tabled for a further meeting.